Go ahead and get this meeting of the Land Use and Transportation Committee started. All members here except for one. So, I don't know, Julie, you want to call roll?
Beverly Bell. Absent. Jim Rogal. Leah Klein.
Present.
Shana Wachinski.
Here.
Gerald Thompson. William Friedrich. Jim Soldner.
Here. All right, first item is the approval of the February 1st regular Transportation Committee minutes and the February 10th special Land Use Development Committee minutes. I would entertain a motion for those. Member Klein, second member Thompson. Any questions on those? Member Rogel?
Just maybe a question for parliamentarian. All of us weren't on the land use committee, so how are we supposed to approve minutes for a meeting we weren't on?
Well, that's a good question because I wasn't on that committee. I was on the committee, but no, I was there. I wasn't at transportation.
Which one? That one. Obviously, somebody's got to approve those minutes, and since that land use committee no longer exists, you can't call a meeting of the land use committee to approve the minutes. So it seems to me that if there are members present that were on the land use committee that are available to vote on those, it should be a vote to approve the minutes if they're in an acceptable form, and we move on.
All right. Well, we do have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next item is the payment of the bills and appropriation transfer requests. We do have one transfer. If you notice, it was on page 3. Building zoning from postage to regional planning grant. Are there any, first off, I guess a motion to pay those bills? Member Friedrich, second member Rogel. Any questions on any of those bills? We should have had them sent to you in advance. All look good? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any appearances by members of the public?
No, Chairman, there are not.
All right. First item then is Departmental Matters 5A1A. Motion to request approval of a resolution for the February 10, 2022 construction letting. I would entertain a motion for that. Member Thompson, second Klein. All right. Jerry, you want to lead us on that?
Sure. So these are two projects related to the Blooming Grove Wind Farm from last year. So the first one's the Meadows Road going from Lexington to Interstate 55. And then the second one is going from Route 66 to 2225 Road. And so the first one, on the Meadows Road, is just a straight resurfacing, mill and fill resurfacing project. So it's straightforward. The PJ Keller project is, we're doing a little bit of widening work from Route 66 to kind of where the new Casey's is at, to kind of just for provide a little bit of safety shoulders on that section of road. So it's a little bit longer project, and so we did have two different contractors. Row Construction was a low bidder on the Meadows Road, and HJ Apple was a low bidder on the PJ Keller project.
And it looks like they both came in under estimate, so that's a good thing.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions on those? All right, if not, ready to vote. All those in favor of 5A1A say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is, yes.
Sorry for the interruption, but I'd like to note for the record that Beverly Bell has joined the meeting.
All right, great. And I put it on the little deal there. All right. Next item is 5A1B, request approval of a resolution for the February 15th, 2022 material letting. I would entertain a motion. Member Friedrich, second member Thompson. All right, Jerry?
So this is some different materials that we put out for bid to be used throughout 2022. A couple of them are for hot mix that we use on culverts or different areas for patching. And so we established prices with some of the different contractors in the area, in the county and outside the county that are close by. And we kind of look at, depending on where we're working at, where we're working and what facilities making what type of mix, I guess. And then we, we'll call up these contractors in the morning and see what they're making, and then we'll do our project and then go get the hot mix and put it in there. The Group 17 is Durapatch oil that we get out of Urbana, and some of the townships use this as well. So this is coming out of the motor fuel tax fund, and so we had to put this out for bid. And then the last one that we bid was the metal culverts and plastic pipe that we will be using throughout 2022. And so there was a significant increase in the pipe and steel cost. And we were expecting this. We kind of noticed it at the end of last year when we had a couple projects. And so there was a 30 to 35% increase in what we had. So on this particular bid, we did look at, so we split it out in between what we call black coated pipe, which is bituminous coated pipe, and then so that's 22A, and then 22B is aluminized coated pipe. We haven't really used much of that, so we decided to bid that out because it's cheaper than the black coated. So what they tell us is the black coated lasts 75 to 100 years, whereas the aluminized may only last 50 to 75. But so we haven't had much experience as far as installation or anything on how it works. It's the same type of pipes, just depending on how they coat it. So we may look at doing some of those projects, like township projects or some other type, depending on the type of road, we may look at using some of these aluminized pipes.
Any questions? Member Friedrich?
With the increase in cost on these projects that we've experienced the last couple of years, are we going to be doing less maintenance and, how we tar and chip the roads? That's gone up. Are we going to be doing less bidding out because of those increase in costs?
Yes. That is the bad thing. This year's a little bit different because we're actually going to be doing more like reconstruction costs. So our overall bigger construction projects on that is going to be higher than what our maintenance cost is going to be. So, but yeah, looking at the numbers and dealing with the townships and looking at the pricing that we're anticipating, yeah, we're going to have to be doing less work. Now the other side of that though is the townships have the Rebuild Illinois funds available to use, but that's only going to be for so long. If these prices keep increasing, we're going to be in a world of hurt.
So these items, the oil and the hot mix are, obviously you're estimating how much you use, and maybe the same way with the pipes. When you get a bid and let's say for instance we need more, do we get to pay that same price? Or do we pay whatever the going rate is at the time if we need more of an item?
This price is set throughout 2022.
Okay.
So if the price goes up, and that's kind of actually what we ran into last year in 2021, we did the same thing, and we kind of were expecting a price. So in September, we put a big order for our stockpiling pipe at our yard, and so the supplier didn't really care for that too much, but that was just kind of the way
Right.
the world works. So we'll kind of play the game. If we think that the price start going down, then we won't carry over as much from 2022 to 23, and so we'll just have to kind of keep an eye on it and see how prices go. I mean, it's kind of something we do. And
Right.
the hot mix, as far as that usually doesn't fluctuate too much. It always just depends on that goes up, and it's kind of more based on the oil and that. So I don't, I see in that staying about the same throughout the year.
Right. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Ms. Bell?
Good morning.
Morning.
I just heard on the radio that everything's going to go up at least 30%. Is there any way that you can lock in this bid so it's not costing us an arm and a leg?
So these prices for the group 17, the group 9 hot mix, and the pipes, this will be established throughout 2022. And then so next year when we get 2023, we'll have to be bidding. We'll have to rebid them. So
Are these supplies in the country? Are they in state? Are they coming from overseas anywhere?
no, this is all. So the pipes all coming from Contact out of Metamora. So that's over in Woodford County, and so it's 45, 50 minutes away. And then the dirt patch oil is coming out of Champaign, and then the rest of it's all made locally.
We've had one snowstorm after the next, and the roads are terrible right now. There are potholes, you can almost put your car in it. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying we've got a lot of road repair going on, and I have no idea what's going on outside the city limits.
Okay,
Can you
sure.
assure me that we are not going to be paying a higher cost than what you're proposing?
Well, I think our roads are maintained pretty well outside the city limits, so we don't have a lot of potholes and things. I mean, we still have maintenance to do, and I can't guarantee. We'll put out the bids, and I can't guarantee that we're not going to be paying a higher price. But once we lock in the bids, those are going to be locked in throughout 2022.
Thank you.
All right. Ready to vote? I'm sorry, Member Thompson?
Yeah, I would just respond to that, the comment. I mean, that the roads deterioration is just normal. It's just freezing, thawing in Illinois, and it's just an unfortunate reality of this climate we live in. And we both live out in the country, and the roads in the country, the county roads that we are and oversee are in excellent shape. And that's just an unfortunate reality this time of year. It just destroys the roads. Once they start getting areas for water to collect, freezes, expands, pushes it out, and once it starts, it's devastating. It's just unfortunate. But
Yeah, we were
it's
noticing
reality.
areas this year where, like, you could feel bumps in the road, like going down Tawana Barnes or different places where we've never noticed, like where it's frost heave, and that we never had that before. And so it's just the nature of the conditions that we had, and
Drive a semi, you'll notice them.
yeah, especially like down Route 66.
I think the other issue is that, especially out in the county, now will be more shoulders and edges of roads than the actual surface, because with the ground getting soft and that, and the same way is, I find driving around Bloomington normal that the city streets and the state highways are probably, you can only fill holes so many times to where they're going to have to come through and do something different. But unfortunately, it's just, if we could guarantee this was the end of the freezing thawing, but that's no way of doing that. So, yeah, Member Thompson?
Just one quick, something that's been different this year is the fact that we got cold with no snow cover for such a long time. So the frost actually went deeper this year. And typically, like if we get a snow and then we get cold, we don't get hardly any frost. But so the destruction actually is probably worse this year because of the depth of the frost. And so as it comes out, it thaws from the top down, and it just, everything on top is just mush. Our drive, we're trying to haul grain out, and it's just soup. And so this year's worse than normal, in my opinion. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on 5A 1B. All those in favor say aye. Oppose? Motion carries. Next item is 5A 1C, request approval of a highway fund resolution for the Chenoa Road, County Highway 19. I would entertain a motion. Member Klein? Second? Member Rogal. All right, Jerry?
So this will be the last Blooming Grove wind farm project that we have to be done this year. And so this is going to be a full depth recycling project, and it'll be similar to what we did last year on Lexington East. The only difference is on Lexington East, we put a couple inches of hot mix on the full depth recycled pavement, and this year's just going to be an oil and chip. The traffic count on the Chenoa road is only like 150 cars a day compared to 500 on the Lexington East road. So we didn't feel that we needed a kind of for future maintenance and that where we were going to need total new hot mix on this particular road. So this is we're just for the resolution, and we're looking to try to bid this here in March or here in a few weeks actually.
All right, any questions? So is this 1,600,000? Obviously, that again, that's an estimate, and is that an estimate with the lower cost of items or the higher cost? In other words, you think that's going to be relatively close, or you think it's going to be low?
It should be relatively close unless oil jumps up in the next 3 weeks really high, but I would say it's close, and we've given our estimate to the wind farm, so they're aware where where we're at and that. So we're working on finalizing the details on the plans and the proposal, and we'll have it advertised probably next week.
And again, the cost is being borne by the wind farm, so
Correct.
I mean, obviously, we don't want it any higher than we have to. So, Member Friedrich?
What's the anticipated time frame for this road being closed? Do you have an idea as far as an estimate? One question. Second question is, you're going to try to get it done real quick, like running 2 asphalt machines? And I guess it's a major road and safety, ambulances and that out in the country. They would try to expedite it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of different steps in here because we're actually doing we're going to kind of trying to correct the slope is one. So we're doing like a little bit of a widening on the existing road and the shoulder, and trying to spread that material out over that whole thing. So they'll come in, they'll widen it, they'll pulverize it, and then compact that down. So actually, the local traffic will be able to run on that, and then they'll come in and do the full depth recycled process, and they'll be able to run on that as well. So it'll just but it'll take some time to cure it out, and it'll probably moving like a mile at a time, and so that'll be kind of slow going. So we may have a mile closed for like 2 days, and then the next mile closed for 2 days. But there's ways to get around and stuff, so I don't think it'll be too much of a burden on the local traffic.
So like 6 months for the start to finish?
No, I'm thinking probably 3.
All right. Any other questions?
Are you going to be proposing this during planning season, or I'm not familiar with the area there, so can you give me a little bit more details, because we've had a wet last couple of months. So you're going to put in a road?
No, the road's already there, and it's just it's in, I wouldn't say it's in bad shape, but it was abused by the traffic from the wind farm. So we're just going to till up the existing road and reuse the road that's there, and inject a certain type of oil into the road, and so that'll make it hard. And then we'll put a surface over the top of that to seal it up. So this will probably go. It'll probably be right at the end of the planting season, is where I'm guessing when it'll start. Let's say June 1st, and then it'll probably take all summer.
Any other questions? Okay, ready to vote? All those in favor, this is item 5A1C. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is 5A1D. Request approval of a motor fuel tax resolution for the Danvers Eaton Road County Highway 18, and I would entertain a motion. Motion by member Thompson, second member Friedrich. All right, Jerry?
So this is a project we're looking to do in 2023, where we're using our federal allotments that we get from the state. So there's a lot of different funding sources in here. With the STR funds, we're also going to do safety shoulders. So we received highway safety improvement funds, and also TARP funds, which is truck access route program funds. So there's a lot of different funding sources in there, but this is going to go, I think it's like 6 miles from the edge of Danvers to the Danvers Uten elevator. I think it'll be a good project to connect that. There's been a lot of talk over the years about making sure this is 80,000 pound route and truck route and all that. So this is the goal on this project. And so this it's really on this particular resolution is for the motor fuel tax dollars to do like preliminary engineering so we can start all the environmental work. And but a lot of there probably won't be a lot of the county money in this as far as because I actually also using COVID relief money that we were receiving from IDOT. So I think it was like 276,000. So between the STR and the COVID relief, and then our TARP funds that we receiving are going to be used to match all those dollars. So this STR on the federal side is an 80-20, so 80%, and then we have to match 20. So the TARP funds that we get, I think it's like 560,000, are gonna match that portion, and then the HSIP funds for the safety shoulders are a 90-10 split. So then we'll have to match 10% of those costs related to the safety shoulders.
Member Friedrich?
Since this is a mile from the Rivian car plant, I'm looking at long-term. Have we been in discussion with them? I know we just have those two roads, but they're going to be expanding, or there's talk of being expanding. Do you have conversation with Rivian and get their ideas what they project in 5 years on some of those road and their future building plans?
No, I have not had any conversations with Rivian at all related to anything that we're doing. I mean, we're looking at doing our White Oak Road project that's kind of adjacent to their plant here this year, but we're more, and that's more just a mill and field maintenance type project, where this is kind of upgrading the road. But we didn't, and I don't know how much they'd be going out towards Danvers when they're hauling their stuff away. I mean, I guess I suppose they could. I don't know if they would just jump on 74, and if they're.
They would, but in the future, they're going to look at expanding
Sure.
directly to the east, and whether we had a role in any of that. Because, and I'm thinking of cost sharing, on our township roads, we have an elevator and they'll cost share maintenance.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm going with
Okay.
this, cost sharing future projects, and if there's been any discussion.
Okay. No, so we can certainly look into that, but we haven't had any conversations up to date.
Any other questions?
Yes, I do. When
sorry?
are you planning to do this venture?
Well, we're going to start the preliminary engineering work so we can start the environmental work, because sometimes, depending on what you find, that could take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. But this is actually a project that's going to be in 2023. And so we'll probably be on it. It's going to be on an IDOT letting probably the March of 2023. So they'll probably start work in May of 23.
Okay. Are you aware that they're putting a truck stop out there too that's going to hold 80 semi trucks, campground sites? I mean, that's a lot of movement in that area.
I think that's off of Route 51, if I'm not mistaken. I don't believe it's very close to this.
I'm sorry, I'm not really familiar with that area.
Sure.
I misspoke.
All right, anything else? Okay, we're voting now on 5A, 1D. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, 5A1E, request approval of a bridge construction petition for joint culvert replacement number 1 in the Aerosmith Township. Who wants to make that motion? Member Rogel, second member Klein. All right, Jerry?
So this is a culvert that the Aerosmith Road District Road Commissioner wanted us to look at. And so typically on these type of projects, if they see a culvert that's damaged, Luke or another staff member will go out and take a look at it and, see what kind of condition it is and see if it needs to be replaced. And so, so these are 50-50 type projects that we do for the townships, and then we figure up a cost and, tell them what it's gonna cost, and then we, go out and do the work usually once, sometime in the summer when we get the pipe ordered. So this is going from a 24-inch pipe to a 30-inch arch pipe. And the total cost is around $7,700. So the county's roughly going to be about $3,850.
Any questions? This is obviously this is a township road. It's a little bit east there, Aerosmith. So, I mean, all those roads get tractor and truck traffic, but it's not what I would consider a main highway. Any questions? All right. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, 5A1F, request approval of an Illinois Department of Transportation IDOT fiscal year 2023, section 5311, formula application for rural area operating assistance. I believe Ms. Dick is here. We have questions. So first off, someone want to make that motion? Member Thompson, second member Wachinski. All right. Jerry, do you want to lead us, or do we want to call her up, or what do you want to do?
I can kind of
Okay.
Discuss a little bit. So Showbus has two main operating grants, and so the first one here is this 5311, and this is more from the federal side of things, and I didn't really dive into the details and see what had changed or anything like that. So maybe Laura, if you want to come up and give kind of a brief overview.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this grant is Section 5311 for rural public transportation. McLean County acts as the primary, it's called the primary participant for 5 other counties. So this grant covers DeWitt, Ford, Iroquois, Livingston, McLean, and Macon counties. McLean and Macon only in the rural areas. It has not changed. Boy, I can't remember. Well, at least 20 years, the amount of money we get from Section 5311 has not changed. They are reviewing it to see if they will change it, but for 20 years, it's been the same amount of money. There is another pot of money that came in during COVID. It is also considered Section 5311, and it's under the CARES grant. You don't have that because it was a multi-year grant, and that was approved last year.
All right. Any questions? Looks like I went back and looked. It looks like it's almost $5 million.
The overall budget is about $5 million. That is based on if we were able to pull down all of our downstate operating assistance funds. So that's a very generous budget. It will depend a great deal on how much we recover in this year. We took a real hit during COVID.
All right. Okay. Any questions? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So then another part of that then is 5A1G, request for approval of IDOT fiscal year 2023 downstate operating assistance program application for rural areas. Who wants to make that motion? Member Klein, second member Wachinski. That's on page, that's part of this. So So anyhow, yeah, is there anything, anything you want to comment on that?
There've been two changes. One is that the Downstate Operating Assistance Program is supposed to be an appropriation that goes on up by 10% per year. For the last 2 years, they have frozen those amounts, so it has not gone up. The second change is that up to this year, it has always been treated as a grant program, even though it's based on an appropriation system through the legislature. So at the very last minute this year, they changed the funding to be in acknowledgement of the appropriation. So the application was a little bit awkward because they changed the application midstream. So it doesn't go through the usual budgeting process, which would be the GATA process. Oh, and don't ask me what that stands for because my mind is blank.
That's fine.
So the application's a bit awkward and it's missing pieces that are usually there. So I tried to kind of expand it a little bit and put a little bit more budgeting information in it. So it's a little bit awkward, but in the long run, what they hope that will do is speed up the process of approving contracts. Because we did not get the last of our contracts for the year that began in July. One was not signed until January, which really hurts the cash flow.
All right. Okay. Any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item then is on the next page, letter H. I'm trying to look here. Why don't we go ahead and put both of those together? They both deal with, one's a service agreement, the other one is a vehicle lease agreement. And I'll read them both. Request approval of a purchase of service agreement between McLean County and Showbus for rural public transportation in fiscal year 2023. And then the other one is request approval of a revised vehicle lease agreement between McLean County and Showbus. So who wants to make that motion? Member Watchinsky, second member Thompson. All right, Jerry, you want to lead us on this?
So this is, the first one is a service agreement that allows Showbus to run in the rural areas of McLean County, and McLean County is the lead agency. And then the second one is just kind of the revised lease agreement. I think just a few months ago, there were some vehicles that were disposed of. So this is just kind of updated on vehicles that were taken out in 2021 and some of the new ones that were added.
Okay.
And I don't know if Laura has anything.
Do you have anything you want to add?
The only other thing that's a little bit odd is in the purchase of lease. You'll see that there's one that's on the disposal list, the 2016 Ford. We would never have disposed of this bus. It's an excellent bus, but IDOT asked us to trade it for a 2019. And this does happen when an agency goes out of business or their needs change in terms of the size of bus they use. IDOT has no process by which they can take possession of the bus. So there's wheeling and dealing behind the scenes trying to get the bus to an agency that can use it and then getting a smaller bus to the other agency. And that's what this is. Unfortunately, because IDOT's still not in their offices more than, well, the individual who handles disposals is only in the office every other week for 1 day. This is a very slow process. So the 2016 is on awaiting disposal, but there is another agency already using it. And the 2019 that we traded it for is already in service in our fleet. So it's a little awkward.
But in other words, they took a vehicle, but they gave us one, though. We're not shorthanded.
Correct. And
Okay.
actually, we got a brand new one that was a super medium duty with 1,200 miles, I think. And we traded that for, that was a super medium for 26 passenger. This wonderful 2016, our mechanics haven't forgiven me because that was a really good bus, but it was a medium duty, which is a 14 passenger, and it already had 170,000 miles on it. So yes, it was a good deal. From
So,
McLean
yeah, we're
County.
coming out on the good side of it. It's
Yes.
just an issue that it's all been kind of done before we did the
Yes.
agreement.
Yes.
But
It's a little
that's,
nerve wracking.
that's how it works sometime. Okay. Any questions, Member Friedrich?
I guess this would be the state's attorney, our board pack, page 26 to 49. Have we reviewed these agreements and everything's A-okay in your opinion?
My recollection is that all of the agreements that are attached to the packet have been reviewed. That's right, yeah.
All right, anything else?
Thank you very much.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's see where we're at. So, it looks like next project summaries, we have none. Jerry, have you got anything else to add?
No, we're setting up some pre-construction meetings, so they'll on the Meadows Road project. So they'll probably start beginning in April on that, I'm guessing. And we're getting some salt in today, and so we're good on that. So hopefully we don't need any more the rest of the winter. But we made out of all the snowstorms okay, and so we're in good shape.
I was gonna ask you if you had any snow removal horror stories, as far as equipment goes or anything.
We had one of our wings did get mangled up, and so we're gonna have to rebuild the wing. We can still use the mow board, but we had to. So it's the wing that comes off the side of the truck, and so we're just gonna have to hit a bunch of steel and rebuild it. It's probably gonna take a couple weeks to do it, but that was, I think, all the main thing that we had.
Do we have a mailbox count?
I haven't heard since the last storm. I know one guy in particular got a few of them, and so then he went out with our sign foreman and helped fix them. So
Right.
he may take a little more, be a little more careful around the mailboxes
Well,
the next time.
There again, it's a small price to pay to get the roads opened up, so.
Sure.
Okay. And then lastly, I know at our township motor grader had radiator problems, and I was gonna ask if you're having problems getting parts and that type of thing in for equipment.
Not that I have heard. As far as related to trucks and that type
Okay.
of stuff, we're in good shape, and I don't know if we had enough on stock probably
Okay.
to take care of what we needed to, but or we had no serious damage where we needed something that was going to
Okay.
hinder us.
Anybody else have any questions for Jerry or Luke? Go ahead.
I don't have a question, but more of a comment. A big thank you to the staff for all that they did, because 3 storms were pretty tough. I mean, we haven't had snowstorms like that for quite a while, and it's not an easy job to go out there and fight the wind and can't see. You have no idea what you're doing, and so on behalf of all of us, thank you to everybody.
And I think with technology, with pretty much everything's instantaneous, referring like to school districts, I mean, they've done a good job of, I think, predicting that, we're going to call school now rather than get people here and then trying to get them home or whatever. So they need a lot of credit also.
Yeah, the timing of the storms, and then our guys put in a lot of hours. Not even during when the storm was going on, but afterwards when the wind was blowing and that type of thing. And all throughout our whole department, we had our office personnel was in delivering fuel to the snowplow drivers, out on the road, so they don't have to come back. And so that it saves them a lot of time, and so it's credit to them and just everybody that put in the hours to do that.
All right, well, great. Okay, well, thank you very much. So then we're ready to move on to letter bill with building and zoning. The first one with Mr. Dick. I'll read the motion. It's B1A, request by Wick Farms Trust by co-trustees Sky Wilkin and Samuel Payne for a waiver of preliminary plan requirements and approval of a 1-lot subdivision final plat on the FS Pleasant View Farms subdivision in case S-2201. So I would entertain a motion for that. Member Thompson, second. Member Klein, did you second that? I did. Okay, Member Klein. Okay, and Mr. Dick's passing out some paperwork on this.
This is a one-lot subdivision. It's somewhat unique in a couple of ways. One, it doesn't have frontage on a public road, so that's why it's a subdivision. Otherwise, it would be exempt from subdivision. It has access through a long easement. And the other reason it's unique is because it's 40 acres in area, so it's a relatively large lot. It's been reviewed by the Highway and Health Department. They both signed off on it. This property is south and west of Lexington. It's owned by a trust, and two of the trustees are here, represented here if you have any questions. This property will be eventually used for ag tourism, and that will go through the zoning process. But it meets all of our requirements, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Again, I always like to hear that the local jurisdiction, township or whatever doesn't, they've signed off with it, evidently don't have a problem. Is there any issue with, I know in the past, dealing with potential parking or that type of thing for anything in the future?
This doesn't have anything to do with the use of the property.
Okay,
This just has to do with being able to divide it so that it can be conveyed as a separate parcel.
okay,
And when I'd written the staff report, I hadn't gotten a plat access certificate signed yet. But since then I have, so the local township road commissioner has signed off on it.
okay. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, then we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Then the next item is B1B, request by the Ecology Action Center for a letter by the McLean County Board Chairman in support of a grant proposal to the US EPA that will allow for a 3-year project to increase air monitoring in in Bloomington Normal. Who wants to make that motion? Member Klein, second. Member Wachinski. I know that Mr. Brown's here. Oh, there you go. So you want to explain to us what we're doing here?
Yeah, essentially, we're seeking just support in the form of a letter from the county for this project. We're requesting funding from the US EPA for air quality monitoring. It's really a unique opportunity to get better data on air quality, especially on the west side of Bloomington, where we know it's a bit worse than elsewhere. There's only existing right now one air quality monitor in the entire Bloomington Normal and McLean County area, and that's on the ISU campus, which doesn't really represent air quality everywhere in the community. We do know that we are borderline for non-attainment for federal standards for the air quality pollutant ozone, which is connected with respiratory disease and is a serious threat, but as well, non-attainment can lead to economic ramifications, and so we want to avoid that as well. And so we're seeking no funding, just a letter of support. We have discussed this project with the McLean County Health Department. They don't have any air quality initiatives, and they're verbally in support of this effort, and that it is not redundant with any other efforts that they have going on.
Do you know what the grant amount is for?
We don't have our project completely assembled yet. The deadline for application is less than a month out, but we're looking at probably a few $100,000 We're doing this in partnership with ISU faculty, Environmental Health Department, Community Health Department at ISU, as well as NAACP and some other community partners.
And so it says 10 smaller mobile units. Would this be something that would mount to a vehicle or whatever, or would it include the cost of a truck or a car or whatever?
So the mobile units are actually, they are still stationary. And so these are intended for kind of a community engagement aspect of the project, that we could loan these out to community groups,
Okay.
to classrooms, so they can do air quality monitoring, at various sites in the community, in addition to, the 3 semi-permanent ones that we would be installing in West Bloomington.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Brown? All right, seeing none, ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Very good. You might as well stay where you're sitting there, because I believe next item then is, looks like we have several items for information. If you want to go ahead and lead us on all those, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. So first up is our quarterly activity reports for the McLean County Solid Waste Program. And so this is for the first 3 quarters of calendar year 2021. We're right now working on finalizing the 4th quarter report, and we'll submit that later. Essentially, this summarizes all of our various activities with education, outreach on waste, on recycling, on waste reduction, our coordination of various programs, technical services, all related to solid waste planning and management. And so we'll take any questions, if there are any, on those reports.
Member Klein?
I'm just assuming the lack of progress on library engagement has to do with the summer program and the timing. And that will all ramp up here.
And so, yeah, those leading indicators, those have fluctuated significantly during the pandemic. We historically meet and exceed all of those, but right now, just due to everything still being a bit convoluted, just we haven't been able to reach our traditional audiences in the same way. We have done a lot more, virtual engagement and such, but yes, in person has definitely suffered.
Any other questions? All right, you want some more to report?
Yes, let me get down to the next one. So the McLean County HHW Household Hazardous Waste Post-Event Report, which I think is on page 68 of the packet, somewhere in there. So just background on this, because I know we have some newer members here. So historically, Illinois EPA provided funding for one-day hazardous waste collection events for Illinois communities. Back in the day, we were able to get almost annual funding for that, but then that went away for a long time. And so in the absence, to still provide for the need for proper collection and disposal of all these hazardous waste items, the Ecology Action Center, in partnership with McLean County, the City of Bloomington, Town of Normal, and Binward, created a public-private partnership to provide for every other year hazardous waste collections using local funding, using a mix of public funding, and then the Ecology Action Center would do fundraising with private funding to supplement that. And that was very successful, a unique program statewide. That agreement is still in place, but meanwhile, we've been working very closely with the Illinois EPA to try and get the funding back again from them to make this happen. And we've been working on building that relationship for a very long time. And even demonstrating our ability to do it independently has really helped in that way. And so this past year, we were finally able to secure state funding again. This was very, very successful. This was actually our largest hazardous waste collection event by volumes of materials collected ever in our community. And so it was very successful. It was out at the Interstate Center. In the past, we've had issues with traffic backups and long waits. We've now completely done away with that problem whatsoever with an appointment-based system. And so most people were in and out, in 10 minutes. Some people as short as 7 minutes. The longest was probably like 25 minutes or something like that. And so we've really changed this around, made it much more user-friendly, much more cost-effective as well. If you go down to the last page of that report, which I think is, let's see, I see that as page 75 in the packet. And so due to the Illinois EPA support for this, while that doesn't cover all the expenses, that covers the hazardous waste crew, the crew of chemists that come out that collect, bulk, prepare for transport, hallway, and then the permanent disposal of these materials. Illinois EPA covers all that, which is the significant expense. So we still have expenses though for our staff time, for marketing, for coordination. And so essentially the point is, while we normally invoice McLean County every year for this, $14,400, we did not invoice this year at all. We already had funding from last year, and we're actually returning money this year. And so we're returning $8,667. That combined with the $14,400 that we didn't invoice, we've saved the county $23,000 on this program this year and last year combined. So that's the first time we've been able to do that. We're very, very excited about that, to give money back to the county. So, and just progress on this going forward. Well, there's no guarantees, just the huge success of this event. This is one of the biggest in the state. Our track record has made us very good at doing this. The Illinois EPA is very, very excited about how well we do this. They want to continue to give us these as long as funding is available, which still isn't permanent, could be intermittent, but we've demonstrated that we are a good site. We draw from a good area. They like us. They literally asked us for photographs from our event so we could literally be the poster child for these events elsewhere in the state as well.
Wow.
So we're continuing to build that relationship. And the next steps are we're actually looking this year, not looking, we are planning on conducting a feasibility study for a possible future permanent collection site, which would further ease the access to this service for our residents and Central Illinois residents, which could then be an economic development driver to pull residents here from other communities, since there is no downstate, no Central Illinois permanent collection facility. The four the state does operate are up in Rockford and Chicago area. So this would be really a big deal if we could secure this. That again would be in partnership with the state. There would be local costs, but we're right now doing a feasibility study to see what that would cost. So very excited about that.
Any questions for Mr. Brown? The before you go to the next one, I was going to say with the appointment-driven program, I assume that you get less people bringing stuff that you can't dispose of. In other words, you know, if they have gasoline, I'm just for an example, that you know you can tell them, well, we can't handle that. But I assume you still get stuff that people try and either slip through or, oh, I didn't know that type thing. So I was just wondering if you wanted to comment on that.
Sure. And so just for educational purposes, so everybody does know, so gasoline is perfectly acceptable. What is not is latex paint. Latex paint is not hazardous, and it costs nearly as much as oil-based paint to get rid of, and so that is not accepted. We do educate people and even give them a flyer on how they can dispose of that themselves safely and legally at home. So yeah, that still occasionally comes through. We, fortunately, my staff, our volunteers, we don't have to handle materials at all. That is the work of the crew that is hired, the contractor. And so they can turn people away that have that, or just those materials. Usually it is with other materials that are acceptable as well. We do, our staff and our volunteers do try and screen out business customers coming through. By law, we cannot take business waste at these collection events. And so if we see a large commercial truck full of industrial grade materials, then that's likely not residential. And so we'll stop and talk to them and try and, yes, get them out of the line early on so they don't hold things up. But yes, there is still some incidental stuff that comes through that we cannot take, but thankfully the contractor usually deals with that.
Okay. All right, then lastly, you have this last thing on or are you done?
Yeah, the one more, and this is just informational that, yeah, we have submitted our renewal into the state's CERA program, Consumer Electronics Recycling Act, which that is the state-supported e-waste program. which utilizes Town of Normal's electronics recycling Dropbox location as the official county-wide site for all county residents to recycle their e-waste for free. And so we do have to opt into that every year. We were granted approval a couple years back by the county board to automatically renew that unless there were any concerns or needs to delay that or to withdraw from the program. It is going very well. I don't have a report for this past year yet on what volumes were collected, but it's a very good program for the community. And just to point out, in other communities, even if they have this, sometimes there are fees attached for residents. Really, the barrier-free recycling of e-waste is really important to make sure that it's very accessible to all residents. And so things end up at the recycling instead of in ditches, which used to happen all across McLean County. As a cyclist, I was out biking, I would often take photos of all the TVs and ditches, and it's not as common as it used to be.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Brown? Did you have anything else to add?
That is all.
Well, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Before we move on to Administrator Taylor, I was going to ask Mr. Dick, did you want to make a comment about ZBA hearing tonight?
We have a hearing tonight on 4 different text amendments. I had submitted copies of those legal notices to all of you, and those are the only things on the agenda tonight.
And that starts at 7 p.m.?
That's correct.
All right. Okay. Then Ms. Taylor, you have anything?
I do not. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Looks like our next meeting is on Tuesday, April 5th at 8 a.m. Does anyone have anything else? All right. Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.